In the late 1990s, where we grew up in Southern California, the hardcore, old-school training regimens of Arnold, Franco, and Bill Pearl had given way to flashy routines on the Smith machine, spandex attire, and synthol. The old-time bodybuilders like Pearl and John Grimek supplemented their incomes by performing extraordinary feats of strength. Others worked as debt collectors or doormen at illegal drinking pens. Not to mince words, these cats were all around badasses. We heard stories about the bygone era from some of the old heads at the YMCA. It was a relief to know that there was more to physical culture than neon tights, chrome machines, and artificially pumped muscles. The crisis of the iron game at that time produced an opportunity to look to the past. We researched physical cultural history. One individual that we discovered was the noble Norseman, Karl Norberg. He was the strongest longshoresman of all time. Norberg was born in Sweden on January 5th, 1893. By 12 years old, Norberg, one of a dozen siblings, worked at a sawmill 12 hours a day and generally 6 days a week. In 1927, Norberg migrated to the United States. With no pretense of trading in his blue collar for a white one, Norberg found his calling as a longshoreman in San Francisco. Long before the days of forklifts, overtime, mandatory breaks, and other labor rights, Norberg worked around the clock every day of the week. From day one on the docks, the noble Norseman dazzled coworkers and passerbyers with amazing feats of strength he acquired from years of quote-unquote strongman training, also known as heavy manual labor. One of the great showdowns in physical cultural history was when John Grimek met Karl Norberg. John Grimek was a forefather of modern bodybuilding, and he had an extensive strength background. This background went well beyond strength feats at traveling carnivals or on Tijuana street corners. Grimek was a national weightlifting champion and even competed in the Olympics. In those days, the overhead press was an Olympic lift, and this was Grimek's forte. In 1941, John Grimek was performing an overhead press exhibition in San Francisco, and Norberg, along with a few of the booze hounds from the shipyard, went to check it out. The dock workers began to heckle Grimek and faithfully believed one of their own could defeat him. After all, Norberg was functionally strong and had begun a weight training program. To put things in perspective, a 31-year-old Grimek was in his prime. Norberg was 2 years away from getting his AARP card, and furthermore, lacked any formal instruction. At first, Norberg was reluctant to go against Grimek, but once he saw that John was up for it, it was on. It was on like Donkey Kong. The most Norberg had ever pressed overhead beforehand, was 255 pounds. The contest ensued at an opening weight of 240 pounds. Initially, Norberg matched Grimek attempt for attempt. Eventually, Grimek ended up winning with a 280-pound press. Norberg had made a 270-pound press. Norberg nearly defeated Grimek. Even more impressively, Norberg cheat curled the barbell to chest level, then switched from an underhand grip to an overhand grip at chest level, and then pressed the weight overhead. Grimek had nearly met his match. This was similar to Rocky Balboa against Mason Dixon. One of the things you need to understand about Norberg is that he defied age limits. Like a fine bourbon, as Norberg aged, he improved. At 74 years young, he performed a double with 460 pounds in the bench press, and held a pair of 80-pound dumbbells straight out from his body in a crucifix style. At 80, Norberg benched 400 pounds. Another impressive, although less documented lift was when, at the age of 65, Norberg deadlifted 600 pounds. This was the first time Norberg tried the lift. From years of heavy loading, Norberg was even able to walk with the barbell after locking the weight out. In addition, Norberg hit a seated military press with 325 pounds. Norberg did a routine 3 days a week. He did not train legs heavy because of severe arthritis in his knees and hips. His routine was based or centered on 4 lifts. The first was a bench press. He would work up to a top set of 6 reps, then a top triple, and then finally a daily max single. For behind the next presses, he would follow the same set and the same rep scheme. For incline or front barbell presses, again following the same rep and the same set scheme. Finally, for dumbbell rows, he would have multiple rep ranges. Some final thoughts on Karl Norberg. This mighty longshoresman grabbed the bull by the testicles and spit in the face of preconceived age notions. Norberg is a legend, an inspiration, and cannot be forgotten. It is important that we pay tribute to our forefathers in the iron game. For more of these old legends, these old stories, these old heroes of physical culture, hit subscribe at the bottom of your screen.